Tulsi, news out of Ukraine, because we now have that former prosecutor, Viktor Shokin, who was fired, famously by Joe Biden. He said, listen, you don't either fire him today or the $1 billion, you're not going to get $1 billion, sounded like a quid pro quo. And he was ultimately fired. And there was this whole story that, his firing had nothing to do with Burisma. In fact, the problem was he wasn't going after the corruption in Burisma. Now he's done interviews where he directly says, Tulsi, he was fired because of his investigation into Burisma and what the Bidens were doing in Ukraine.
Jordan, it would be easy for some people, and I think some Democrats are using the line, Democrats in Washington, well, this is a matter of like he said, it's one word against the other. And of course, they're going to go with the word of the Biden family. But what's becoming very real is there are multiple pieces of evidence and documents that Congress was asking for months, if not longer, that actually point to a very specific timeline that proves what that prosecutor is saying to be true. He was actively investigating Burisma. You had Devon Archer working for Burisma, going and trying to get the Biden administration to act and shut this guy down. And what happened? It's not a coincidence. It cannot be a coincidence that President Biden went to Ukraine to fire this prosecutor who was going after the business that Hunter Biden was working for. This is such a clear point, Jordan, to the great threat, the imminent threat that we face in this country, which is political powers, the Democrat elite, are using and abusing their power by turning the Department of Justice against their political opponents, very specifically President Donald Trump, to try to make it so voters don't even have the option to choose him, and to protect their own, to protect Hunter Biden, to protect President Biden and their family, and frankly, protect voters from seeing how corrupt they actually are. This is what is the most dangerous thing, because they're turning the United States of America into a banana republic through their actions.
Tulsi, I said something very similar just a few minutes ago. If you look at the situation right now, you got the Ukraine situation and what was going on there, and the money going into Hunter Biden and all that. Okay, I mean, it reeks of corruption, no question. And I did the impeachment that was involving Ukraine. And I mean, everybody knows Ukraine has got corruption issues. This is not new. But if you were looking at the United States right now from another country and saying, okay, you got a former president of the United States who is the leading candidate right now for the Republican Party for president for 2024, and he has four criminal cases against him, and all four of them want to have the trial in March, the day before Super Tuesday. You ran for president, so you know how significant that date is. You think to yourself, geez, that's going to look pretty political. But the Justice Department, like you said, the judges are going along with this. Like, this is okay. And the problem is it's not okay. Fixing it is very difficult. But this is looking horrible for us on the global stage right now, in my view. What do you think?
Yeah, Jay, I couldn't agree more. When I saw the news come out, I think it was yesterday, that March 4th was the day that they chose. It is so transparent, regardless of political affiliation or political agreements or disagreements. Anyone who's looking at what's happening with clear eyes and an open mind can recognize how overtly they are trying to keep President Trump off of the campaign trail, to keep him away from being able to make his case to voters in this country of why they should elect him as president and commander in chief once again. They're afraid that he actually could win, which is why they are committing this such egregious abuse of power that cuts so much deeper than just going after President Trump, because what they're really doing is setting this precedent that puts the United States of America not on a high platform of trying to be an example of democracy to the world, but of reducing our great country to none other than a banana republic and an abuse of power that we see happening in other countries around the world.
Can I ask you this, because you've had this experience? You ran for president. You were very successful within in the Democratic Party. You clearly were the one rising, and then they kind of put their sights on you. But explain to people what it's like, say, 5 weeks before Super Tuesday, because you don't just walk into federal. I'll say from my end, you don't just walk into federal court when you're the defendant and start prepping about it the day before. So what are you doing, say, a month out of Super Tuesday?
Well, Jay, you look at when the first voting will take place in Iowa. It will likely be in early to mid January. So the elections will already be starting. When you look at, yes, you don't just show up in court one day without any preparation, but you look at from when voting begins with the caucuses in Iowa in January, and that span between those first votes being cast and Super Tuesday on March 5th is critical. It's what sets the front runners apart from those who say, hey, maybe this is not working out for me. So to be able to tie President Trump up in multiple court cases, multiple legal battles during that critical period in time is their intent is to be able to cripple him and tie him up, tie his resources up, and choosing that timeline can be the difference between someone succeeding or failing. I hope voters are seeing through this and seeing the truth about what they're doing. I don't remember sleeping much during that period of time. I know I was on the move constantly, as one should be.